With so many exotics to choose from, there's always fresh builds to make, and with them come some that are whack and some that are wild. So today, let's talk about the brand new exotic, Deimosuffusion. I think Strand is an extremely fun subclass as it offers a really diverse set of buffs, debuffs, and abilities while giving you a lot of options to either weave them together or specialize into them. While each of the classes do have distinct strengths like Titans with Banner of War or Hunters with Grapple and Warlocks with Threadlings, building around Strand rarely feels narrow to me unless I want it to. While I could make a Swarmers build an example that strictly generates high damage Threadlings, I can also make a build that uses those Threadlings to unravel enemies, create a tangle, and cause a suspension. While all of the subclasses do offer that customization to varying degrees, that openness and variety to me is what makes Strand so fun and what makes Deimosuffusion so interesting. Now the way Daimo works, if you're unfamiliar, is it causes your Rift to suspend enemies in a radius when cast, and suspended enemies take damage over time, healing you in the process. If a target lives through the suspension and breaks free, they take additional damage, and anytime you defeat a suspended target, you get a chunk of your health back. This perk not only expands your suspension options, but drastically increases their functionality. Suspensions are great on their own, but adding in the healing on top solves the long-standing difficulty that Strand Warlock has had with survivability, while the damage over time also buffs your lethality. I think that balance between damage and utility is a hallmark of Strand as a subclass, so to me, Daimo feels like a perfect fit. While it's clearly an exotic that excels at specializing in suspensions, with the nature of Strand, there's just so many ways you can go about that. Since Daimo can suspend through your Rift, it frees you up to choose any combination of aspects you'd like, which can drastically change just how specialized the build ends up. An example, you could use the Wanderer and Mindspun Invocation to go for full suspensions, or you could go in the other direction and use Weave Walk and Weaver's Call to focus on Threadlings and class generation while suspending strictly through your Rift. You could also, of course, mix and match by maybe combining Mindspun Invocation with Weaver's Call so your Threadlings can also cause suspensions while giving you that class energy back to drop more suspending Rifts. When you add in different weapons, fragments, armor sets, or armor mods, there's so many different ways that you could go about working with Deimosuffusion. There is, however, one combo above the rest that has absolutely blown me away, and of course, it's with Praxic Blade. Praxic on its own is unreal, but Deimosuffusion takes it to another level when you use it with Mindspun Invocation. When consuming your Shackle Grenade, you gain Weaver's Trance, which causes any final blows to detonate a suspending burst, most notably with Praxic, on reflection kills. As you reflect fire and suspend targets, you give Daimo the time it needs to heal you up, while CCing or wiping out entire crowds. Even without Weaver's Trance active, you can drop a Rift to suspend targets around you, and reflect fire as you let the Rift heal you and siphon any of the enemies you suspended. While Praxic enhances what Daimo can do, it goes both ways, as causing those suspensions from a distance can give you the opportunity to close in on targets, and a well-placed throw can suspend almost an entire room at once. This is far and away one of the single most fun and powerful builds I've ever used in all of Destiny, so before I geek out too much, let's go over the specifics so you can see exactly what I was working with, and I can gush a bit more afterwards. For my first aspect, since causing suspensions is the name of the game, I went with Mindspun Invocation to activate Weaver's Trance, during which any final blows will cause a suspension. I also went with Weaver's Call as my second aspect to synergize with my Rifts, but also so my Threadlings could suspend whenever Trance was active. Weaver's Call also generates class energy when your Threadlings cause damage, as well as creating perched Threadlings when you deal damage. There's a lot of synergy in this, as dealing damage with reflections can not only generate those perched Threadlings, but send out the ones you already have. In those moments when you're holding your ground, reflecting shots, your Threadlings can not only help you clear crowds from a distance, but with Trance active, can cause additional suspensions, netting you extra healing. For my fragments, I wanted to keep things simple and focus on ability generation so I could always have something to suspend with, so I went with Thread of Mind for class regen and Thread of Generation for grenade regen. I also chose Thread of Wisdom to generate orbs from suspended targets, and Thread of Warding to get woven mail from those orbs. Since Praxic can easily cause multi-kills, especially on suspended targets, with a kinetic siphon this will generate a bunch of orbs and a lot of ability energy. For my armor set, I went with TechSec as it not only synergizes with Praxic's attacks and reflections to break shields and disorient enemies, but it also seems to work with the damage from Deimosuffusion suspensions. As you can see in this clip with TechSec on, when I suspend a shielded knight with my Rift, the damage numbers are yellow, and once the shield breaks, that disorienting blast occurs. This happens with every source of suspension that I could test, including my Shackle Grenade and anything from Weaver's Trance, so long as I was using Daimo. Now, fair warning, I'm not entirely sure if this is intentional, as I had assumed that it being a Strand exotic, the suspension damage would be Strand, but clearly the game recognizes it as kinetic damage. I can't currently find any information anywhere about if this is meant to be happening, and from looking around, no one else is talking about this, so take it with a grain of salt that this might be changed in the future, and enjoy it while you can. TechSec is also unfortunately no longer available this season, so if you don't have access to the set already, I would recommend Collective Psyche as an alternative, as it increases the duration of your suspensions and will net you extra healing from Daimo. For armor mods, I went with 2 kinetic surges to help juice up Praxic, as well as 2 kinetic ammo gen mods to help keep it stocked up. I wouldn't recommend a Lucent Blade mod like I would with other swords, as Praxic's charge rate is already extremely fast. Since Praxic is a sword, it counts as weapon damage and is not affected by the melee stat, so I got my grenade and class stats to 100 for max regen and cranked my weapon stat. As I mentioned, this build generates a lot of orbs, so take advantage of fonts for any lower stats, which I did here with a class font to get me to 100. Praxic itself also has a few options to choose from, and although it's too early in the season to have much unlocked, I've been really enjoying using defensive form as it drastically increases guard duration to reflect more shots. Defensive form also generates ammo for Praxic when you're reflecting, which is insane as reflections don't cost any ammo, but if you're a more offensive player, you could definitely go with balanced form instead. For the catalyst, I went with Echoing Blade to try to get some extra suspensions per throw, but once I have the chance, I'll be giving Energy Conduit a shot from the dungeon, and we'll see if that'll be my go-to. For the artifact mods, I went with Kinetic Synthesis to keep Praxic stocked up on ammo, as well as Combination Argent Blade to up its damage, which is a nice 15% increase. At time of writing, I haven't maxed out my artifact yet, but Armor Smith will be great for extra resistance. Swordstorm combo will be a must-have with Praxic, as it'll activate anytime you do the full combo, and I'll also likely be pairing it with Kinetic Rupture. I think this build is extremely strong, and I think the healing from Deimosuffusion is so much fun to work around, especially using Praxic. I'm usually a pretty defensive player, and I think Praxic and Daimo offer the perfect balance for me and my playstyle between damage output, utility, and survivability. Reflecting shots on its own is loads of fun, but watching those suspensions pop while it happens and tactically aiming around crowds to catch as many targets as you can is so satisfying. When everything gets rolling and you've got Weaver's Trance up with threadlings going all over the place, dodging grenades, disorienting enemies, deflecting bullets, and throwing Praxic around, it's nothing short of an absolute blast. It's also fantastic for Frontiers, as there's so many adds to suspend, you can get a substantial amount of healing going, and because of that amount of enemies, the crowd control from suspensions and disorient is really valuable. With the ability uptime and the amount of options that I had to suspend, if I ever got in a pinch, I could deflect some shots to suspend a crowd or two, leave them hanging while Daimo healed me and I focused on a different group, and if that first group didn't die from the siphon, a well-placed throw could clean them up. I'm really looking forward to experimenting more with Deimosuffusion and trying out different variations on this build, as there's just so many options I want to explore. Just in terms of weapons that I think would pair well, there's a bunch, like the new LMG Service to Luzaku, Wishkeeper, or even Kvostov, to name a few. With all the armor set, aspect, and fragment combinations there are to try, Daimo will absolutely be an exotic that I spend a lot of time with this season, and one that I think will cement itself as an all-timer. For me, Deimosuffusion is exactly what I was looking for. It's strong, it's interesting, it's extremely fun to use, and by all accounts, it's wild. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. There's a dim link down below if you want to give this exact build a try, or if you want to use it as the base for your own spin on it. Subscribe to the channel to keep an eye out for more videos soon, and let me know in the comments what you think of Deimosuffusion.